You know, one of the things I've noticed in property management is that our biggest challenges rarely show up during the calm days. They show up at 1 a.m. during a cold snap, when pipes across multiple buildings are bursting and residents have no heat, and suddenly the question becomes very simple. Who actually needs help first? And surprisingly, often our systems cannot answer that question. And that's why I wanted to bring on Rachael Becker. Rachael works with ARIA Management in New York and also runs RB Builds Consulting, where she focuses on operations across construction, property management, and PropTech. She spent years working both in the field and in the office, which means she sees something that most people in our industry don't. And that's where the feedback loop breaks down. In this conversation, we talk about why property teams will spend nights exporting CSV files, trying to create reports and figure out what's happening across their portfolio. We unpack some tools that are designed for the boardroom that often fail when people doing the real work in the boiler room need to use them. And we explore why AI might finally give operators the ability to connect the resident, the office, and the technician in the field through a true system of action. Because if the person holding the wrench can't scale with the business, then nothing in the business scales. Let's get to it. Hi, Rachael. Welcome to the Multifamily Property Management AI podcast. Appreciate you coming on today. How are you?
I'm good, Daniel. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about my favorite subject.
This is your favorite subject? This is my favorite subject too. This is going to be a very easy conversation then. Before we kick things off, let's talk a little about your background. You're currently working with ARIA Management out of New York, but you also have a consulting firm that you built that's really focused, I guess, on the built world. So let's just start out. If you can just give us a little of your background, how you formed RB Builds Consulting Group, and then we can talk a little about ARIA.
Yeah, so I got into the industry in construction about 2007. So if you do the math, it was a very hard year to enter the market. You know, talk about tools and AI now, just trying to implement something back then when you were just trying to pay the bills, get people to show up to site, get materials, get jobs. I learned pretty quickly how important it was to understand the field. And I think that that's what's made my integration, no pun intended, into the AI aspect of contact and PropTech so easy. It's just something that I've had hands-on experience with since the day I started. And it's exciting to see all the attention that this industry is getting. So throughout the years, I've worked in subs like HVAC, successfully started a company there, grew very quickly, throughout Florida and the Southeast. Got called into New York to start into tech, recruited by a tech firm for a skilled worker database that was smashingly successful, and have kind of stayed in the New York City area doing construction management, that type of thing. And I started with ARIA about 2 years ago. I came on as a consultant and then spent, some time being an operator as well, so that I could really understand the challenges, the day-to-day challenges that we're facing, here in 2025, 2026.
And there's plenty of those to go around in the property management industry. If you were looking for challenges, Rachael, you came to the right industry. So tell us a little about ARIA's profile, what their portfolio looks like, where's most of their product located, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we predominantly in the 5 boroughs in New York City. We've got some buildings in other major metros as well, so not very far off the business model. But multifamilies, mixed use, commercial, and obviously some of those mixed use, and then anywhere on the spectrum as far as the type of buildings that we're offering as well. The price points are different. And what we do is a lot of times we'll purchase a property, invest in it, upgrade it, get it efficient, get it up to code. And then, after a few years, then sell that asset, buy another one, and so on.
Got it. That's an interesting point to bring up. So this is not a long-term hold play, generally speaking. It's a, return, acquire, do your rehab, and then 3 to 5 years, you exit.
50-50. We have some properties that are valuable as is. And so I'd say there's about a 50-50 split on ones that we're acquiring, improving and flipping, and then ones that we're keeping within. It's third-party management as well. So a lot of times when these properties get sold, we continue to manage. And so that's another revenue stream or growth lane.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So you've got that perspective as a third-party manager. That's great. So, since this is your favorite subject, let's start off with a very broad question then. What about AI generally are you particularly passionate about that we can tackle today?
I think, for me personally, becomes rocket fuel. I think it puts things together faster than I think a human can, connects things that would take us hours and hours to connect. And so I think that connective tissue between whether it's the field in the office or this app or that app, the different tools within these companies, to me, is the most exciting thing that I've seen. And I think it's going to save the industry. I know I hear a lot of time what AI is taking jobs. If you're in the trades, you're good. But it
Yeah.
is, I think, saving jobs because companies can't sustain the longer lead times, the higher costs, the shortages. Everybody's got less money. And so without, I think, AI in this industry being effective, it's not going to make it.
So, what you're saying really there is properties can't really afford the size of staff that would really be required to adequately do all things that need to be done right now, since everything is done in such an inefficient way. And so AI will allow operators to kind of do more with a more limited workforce. Is that kind of the crux of what you're just saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that probably, talk a little bit, if you've seen how that relates. So what that implies right now, which I think we both know, is that the teams in the field are really stretched thin. They do a lot of things. They're expected to be psychotherapists for the residents. Sometimes they've got to be great data capture analysts for work orders. They've got to turn wrenches and do things. They've got to know the law. They have to know marketing. So we know they're really stretched thin. Is this then an opportunity to relieve some of that administrative noise from the day-to-day and improve the quality of kind of the work environment for people on site?
Absolutely. And I wouldn't be so kind to call it noise. I think it's absolute blockers meant to, I think, keep sometimes the trades down. So, you're out in the field all day, you got a hammer in your hand. At what point are you picking up a phone? At what point are you sitting down at a computer? A lot of these apps are still web-based and look terrible on their phones. So at what point are you sitting down at a computer to get this critical data back to the office? Not just invoicing, but job completion notes. Time is of the essence. I mean, take the last 3 weeks in New York City and we've got pipes bursting everywhere. We don't have time for them to go sit down at a computer, and gone are the days that if they wanted to work with us, they would. It's just not sustainable. We're not empowering them to give us the information we need in the office to make the decisions so that they can keep going out in the field.
Got it. So the opportunity, we'll talk here a second whether or not this is actually happening yet or not, but the opportunity to relieve the teams in the field from having to check their device. It sounds almost like just-in-time delivery of information. What you need when you need it, and nothing else beyond that.
Right.
Got it.
So the succinct, it's succinct, digestible, and actionable. That's my favorite prompt in ChatGPT right now. Cut it. I need to know these 3 things so I can make a decision and get it back out. And getting it back out to them is important. Not just the information in, but then the direction and directive, back out.
Yeah, your initial focus of what you're talking about here is really very maintenance. You're thinking about people in the field turning wrenches and needing to get invoices and all that sort of thing. Let's delineate, first of all, between maintenance technicians who are doing the things that you're talking about, and then the managers on site who are dealing with the residents and sort of the day-to-day operational piece, not separate than the maintenance piece. Are you looking for AI to play a meaningful role in making the lives of the people in that role, making their lives easier as well?
Well, the two go hand in hand. So I would say that the PM in this situation is going to be a hybrid of the field and a hybrid of the office. This is your unicorn, right? Especially now with AI, you can have somebody that's thinking it's, in 7 different lanes, can capture that information as well and get it back, but then they can receive the information from the field and process it as well. And so to me, it's twofold because they're going to need that type of technology and understanding of the user understanding, the user experience of the maintenance guy in the field is going to be half your PM, and they're going to be experiencing the administrative side. So that's why I think that my experience became so valuable because I'm seeing both sides. I'm feeling the pain of both sides. So I know that if I'm not getting information back to my office, we're not getting deposits out, we're not getting invoices out, we're not getting permitting out, we're not getting approvals. And if the field doesn't have the information they need, it's the same thing. So you're feeling it on both sides. So they're very much that middleman feeling the pinch.
And have you seen yet any real material adoption of AI, either in this realm, which is sort of aspirational? I feel like you're talking about what's getting you excited, maybe not what's actually deployed. But are you seeing any material adoption right yet of AI that's worth talking about?
I think the adoption is there, the hunger for it. Everywhere I turn, even if you get like on Upwork or something, and it's always, construction or a deskless industry looking for somebody to help implement AI into their organization. So I think that the adoption's there. I just don't think the tools suffice. I was doing a little studying before we came on, and it takes a mid-sized contractor, mid-sized management company, three to five tries to adopt a tool. Each time it takes about a year to either adopt or abort. And the opportunity cost, what they've lost in slower hiring, slower invoicing, that feedback loop, right, is about $500,000 a try. And if you do the numbers with 150,000 mid-sized contractors in the country, that's like $225 billion we can put back into the industry if we just give them the feedback loop, this tool that they need to make these decisions. And I think at a time like this, that's super valuable.
Well, I'm thinking about the math behind that. So that's really a change management issue, really, isn't it? That's irrespective of the tool. The change management, implementing a new tool, moving from one tool to another, takes a year to do that and takes 3 tries before you get it right. Is that the math that we're doing here?
It's 3 to 5. Three's a fun, punchier number, but 3 to 5. And so I see the change management side, but if the tools did what they said they were going to do, if the sales guy and the customer success guy got on the same page, product guy and the engineer got on the same page, then it wouldn't take 3 times. Why not give them what they need to begin with? Even when they have that third tech, they're probably only keeping it because they can't afford to try another one. It's the lesser of the 3 evils, and they move forward.
Got it. Sometimes feels a little like, I have a Tesla, and I've tried the self-driving mode, and it works great most of the time. But there's a few moments where it's still a little harrowing, and so I don't really trust it fully. Are we at a trust gap here in the world of AI, or it just functionally doesn't do what it needs to do?
I'd say that our admin and management, our back office, maybe even the financial side still has a little concern, right? Because numbers, transparency, and the human eye there, right? There might be some fear there. Watching that battery go down in my electric car is terrifying. So, I get that. And I get some of the hesitations or the fear. I think we're past that. People get to play with AI now. They're making their grocery lists. I'm dragging all my buddies into AI right now. You're relevant. Let's go. So I think we're past the fear. And now it's just the cost. Is it actually effective? Is it doing what we need to do? Is it solving an issue? Are we doing it just because we're told to do it? Or is it really solving a problem?
Yeah. Well, I think in this early adopter phase, there's a lot of people who have to ask themselves that question. I can speak from my own experience on that front. If Vendoroo's product, for example, is, in the maintenance AI world, is meant to take on work order triage, receive those phone calls from the residents, and then decide if it's a real work order. Maybe it can be solved. Maybe it's not a work order at all. Mm-hmm. If it is a work order, or maybe it's an emergency, escalate it, do all those things so that you remove that burden from the front of house staff having to do all that. And with that, let's call that piece kind of a simple first line implementation. The results are surprisingly clear in terms of the value add there, in terms of like reducing the number of open work orders by like 42% because work orders move fast, or actually solving like 9% of those work orders before they become work orders. So reducing work order volume. So there is some certainly early results on, for example, the maintenance side. Have you looked at anything, for example, that has to do with leasing or collections or resident relations? Have you had a chance to look at anything along those lines?
Yeah, yeah, and I want to say too, Daniel, Vendoroo not only helps the front of the house, right, but a lot of times you're especially now that management companies are bringing these trades in house, they're expected to take that first call too. So you are
Yeah.
relieving, I think, pressure on both sides, and the hey, did you lock yourself out of your apartment?
Yeah.
Do you want to pay for the locksmith, or do you want us to pick the locksmith and then you pay for it? Those kind of conversations. And I've tested it, and I really like the you're going in and getting information and bringing it back instead of making everybody behave in a certain way inside of an app. You're coming to them, asking them a question, and then bringing it back in, which I think is pivotal and critical in the industry. And I forgot the question. I wanted to give you an accolade there.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But I think
Yeah.
I think what you brought up is I think it's an important thing to consider, not just with respect to if you were going to consider launching Vendoroo, but in any product broadly. But I think any AI product really needs to meet you where you are as the client. What are
Yes.
your
User.
workflows,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So sometimes that's even like regionally specific, like New York is to operate differently than, probably a property in California.
Yeah.
So that customizability, I think, is important. I mean, we talk about AI learning, but you need to get it off on the right foot to start with. And if it doesn't have that capability, you probably are setting yourself up for frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any area where you find with your clients or just people in the industry that you talk to that people are vastly overestimating what AI should be able to do right now, and you have to sort of like reset their expectations?
Yeah. And I see it worse in management than medical, all the deskless industries that I've worked in, medical, even just construction in and of itself. Like and I know enough to know that when you build, you can't necessarily unbuild and build something new, right? I get it. And I say this out of respect to all the engineers that I know. Um, but we can't afford that line of thinking right now. If it's broken, and it's not going to keep working, quit adding things on top of it. Like the current platform that we use, and I don't want to, say names necessarily, but there's three different ways to put in a work order. They're all three different. So they call it like a user in one, but they call it an assignee in another. So the nomenclature is all confusing. I'm like, that's not structured. What's it going to do for me? And so I go into this bot and I'm like, hey, what happened with, Sesame 123 Sesame Street this week? And it's like, oh, and it just like freaks out. Just give me a sauna. Let me pump all my stuff in there and then ask it at the end of the week what I need to know. Right now, there's so much information going into these tools, but there's no way to digest it and use it. It's a waste. I think
Yeah.
it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of understanding. How many times I've run tenant templates, and they just firing left and right, sending to the wrong people, not consistent.
Well, I think you just touched on one of the real things that I get excited about as we think about the evolution of AI and what's happening right now, and that is the ability to pull information out of unstructured or poorly structured data. If you have a PMS platform that refers to the assignee in three different ways, running a query against that is obviously problematic. But if, through AI reporting, you say, just tell me every one of these that was assigned to Bob or my maintenance technician, right? Generally, the ability to use natural language to, regardless of how the data might be structured, to pull out what you need should be a huge boon to all industries, but property management in particular, because our teams in the field are not, they're running reports, designing reports is not their strongest suit, right?
No.
If we can allow them to use natural language to get the information they need, how life-changing is that going to be?
My favorite thing to do with property management software, export it to a CSV and drop it into ChatGPT. It's not giving me anything, that I can use necessarily. We had the other night, again, I bring up the storms in New York and the record-breaking low temperatures. And I had to figure out who didn't have heat, who didn't have hot water, who didn't have water, and who had a
Right.
little bit of water. Because if you have a little bit of water, that means a burst pipe. And you take 110 buildings, 11 days in. I didn't sleep 3 or 4 nights each week. Like this went on for 3 weeks. I couldn't even go into my property management software and quickly figure out those 4 questions. That's a shame. That is a waste of energy, emotion. People could die. It's freezing. It was, felt like 19 below, and they didn't have heat, and I'm sending the wrong plumber, over to,
Yeah.
not the one to fix the boiler, but the one to fix, this. And so it's critical. It's really important that we have that information. And not even that. I thought I could count on the software. I thought I could count on the tool, and I couldn't. So then I had to overcompensate with all the other work that I'm doing. And I got, bosses looking at me, how do you not know who doesn't have heat? I'm like, I'm trying, and I build these things. So I should be able to go in there and easily pull it out. I mean, follow the UX. I tell my kids all the time, if you can order on Amazon, you can order for groceries for the house, something like that. So it becomes a hindrance because you think you can rely on it and you can't.
Yeah. There's 2 things to unpack there I want to dive into. The first one is you're struggling because you can't pull the data that you want. The data's there. I imagine if you, right? Or if it's not there, then that's a different story. If you're not getting the inputs, that's a different story. But the data's there, but it's not presented to you in such a way that's actionable. Being able to pull that out, well, you're doing it right now by dumping it into ChatGPT, right? Which is a really clunky way to do that. But being able to natively ask those questions is coming. The second thing, though, that I think you're touching on there is you said you really need to be able to trust the application. What are you at a point now where you trust? How much do you trust AI right now in giving you response? Like you dump your information in ChatGPT, it gives you a response. Do you feel like that is a trustworthy response at this point?
No, not even close. So what I do with it, it doesn't take away the human aspect where that instinct, the analytical skills, the thing that used to get me in trouble in school, I'm focusing on like 7 different things, can't sit still. That becomes a superpower, I think, with AI, because you still have to check your work. And I heard it's going to sound silly. This is how far removed from like the game of AI that I am, but it was one gentleman who has a very large stake in AI. The big guy, I forget his name, but he said that the new skill set, this new thing, is that analytical, that person that like sees what's coming around the corner, can read interpretations of something and build their own. And so that's what I use. That's what I use AI for. So even if property management software spit out some data sets, which is really give me a table, run a report, I would have a conversation with it. Typically what I'm seeing is it comes back with an answer and I'm like, how'd you get there? Show me your work. And that also strengthens, I think, the asset. And I think that also the property management software that I am using right now, you can say like you have to tag certain events or inputs, right, to get the information to come back. I get that. So you got to add it and it'll pull it up. And then it says you can hit a button that says show me your work. 99% of the time it's totally off. But at least they're trying,
Yeah.
they're trying.
Yeah.
But I just soon drop it into something that's really learning me and learning these buildings. I've just set up projects for each building, dump it in there. It's growing with me as I'm learning and my understanding develops and how I need to hear it. How many times I've been told I'm not administrative, I need to pay attention to detail. That's where AI comes in and learns with me and I can build on their administrative, I think, strengths.
Yeah. The trust factor for AI is really, to me, comes down to how it handles the edge cases, the things that you don't expect. And, I think one of the things that at Vendoroo would have to do to accommodate that and to bridge that trust gap is a human in the loop contingent. There's an AI that's kind of watching the AI and, making a judgment call like, I'm not so sure that was exactly the right decision, but let's kick it upstairs and have a human review this. And so if you have that, and I think maybe this is just an interim step, but it feels like this is an important long-term component of any trusted AI system, is that you must have this human in the loop like Vendoroo does that ultimately can step in so that you can handle all of the edge cases, maybe not completely through AI, but at least the system doesn't break down when AI, makes an error or comes up against something that it's not exactly sure what it needs to do. Because if you don't trust it, you haven't really relieved yourself of any work. If you have to do, like, you haven't relieved yourself of any work having to get into the PMS platform, export the Excel file, and dump it into ChatGPT. You've made more work for yourself.
Right.
I mean, how much time does that take of yours to do that? That's the opposite of efficiency. So we need to make sure we're not making things worse for people by introducing AI.
Right. And what relationship that you have strong trust in doesn't take work? So there's nothing that's ever going to replace the human. Everybody can relax. But like there is it's a tool. It's not a replacement. And you have to prime a tool. You have to switch blades out of a tool. You have to do maintenance on a tool. You got to plug a tool in sometimes. They're not just these, it's not just there and it's never, it's supposed to be perfect. You're never supposed to mess with it. This is something that we get to use. It's active. It's not stagnant. It's something that we get to use to increase productivity. The telephone, the computer, the Nextel, the beep beep, everything we've got so far has scared people, but if we use it in the right way, that's why I've told anyone that's scared of it, I'm like, then own it. Take control of it. You can't be afraid. It's coming. Infrastructure is either going to break in half and there's no energy or electricity at all, or we're going to have AI. It's just a matter of understanding it, regulating it, getting ahead of it.
And the interesting thing about AI is it's the first tool. Like, I like your analogy about, you've got to change the blades out, that sort of thing. The AI is the first tool that is sort of sharpening its own blades as it goes. I think it's probably wise to make sure you're paying attention to how those blades are getting sharpened, but it does allow us, the tools get better somewhat on their own as things go, or they should. I mean, I think that's one of the promises of AI. Is like the more you use it, the more it's exposed to your procedures, your residents, the better, the more it understands and accommodates. And that is where you build a system of action. Once it really understands how Rachael wants the business to be run, then it's a system of action that can then replicate your own decision-making process in the day-to-day operations of the company.
It frees up time. I have a really, really, one of the gentlemen I work with, he's one of the owners, the properties, as well as, and helps with the company itself, the management firm within itself. One of the smartest guys I know. If I come to him with like a fully formed thought, or like I got the best advice, and it was like, burn the calories first, right? So like when I finally get a chance to talk to this person, I get to really utilize what I need him for, right? We don't have to figure things out necessarily. I can be like, hey, this or this, rapid fire. And he's like, So like, I think that is AI itself too, is it gives us more opportunity to answer the bigger questions than roll around and, data sets and simple deductions, from a data set.
So I'm going to guess I know the answer to this based on what you were just saying, but if you could wave a magic wand right now for this industry, what would you change first? You could do anything that AI could accommodate. What would it be?
I think it's strengthening that feedback loop. It's critical. Without it, there's nothing. If the tenant can't get the complaint in fast, if that can't get out to the decision maker, then to the field person, then back to the office to say that it's been fixed, we literally have nothing. So it is the feedback loop and taking away the latency that we can't afford.
Yeah, that's reducing efficiency. That's making people do things that they're not good at. Introduces errors. All of those things are just administrative work pieces that should be able to go away. Yeah, feels like we're not that far away from that one. I think it's a reasonable expectation. How's that?
And I think that's why I get so frustrated. I've just seen the skilled worker, the field worker. We don't have a financial office if we don't have somebody out in the field. None of that matters unless we've got those crews thought about and taken care of. And if they can't scale with us, I'm going to say it 1,000 times, every chance I get, if the field, whether it's your PM or your maintenance person or a vendor, if they can't scale with us, we've got nothing. And so focusing on, they're not the buyer historically, right? The buyer is the GC, the buyer is the management company, but they are the diamond that we are mining for. They are the product. They're the ones that keep these buildings going. Their expertise, their skill sets, which aren't administrative, is what we're trying to find and interpret, integrate, into our decisions.
So AI should handle the intake of the issue, process that, provide the right information to the person who needs to perform the work so they can go perform their work, anticipate maybe when that person needs more information or there's new information to share with them so they can give that to them, gather from that person the results of the work that was done, materials used, time that it took, that sort of thing, synthesize that into an invoice, a PO, distribute that invoice, check to make sure that the invoice that's returned is correct against the work that was done, and then process that payment. Is that the whole happy life cycle that you're looking for?
Yeah, and heavy on the proof of completion, right? Because
Interesting.
That's your second blocker, right? So it's not just, I say the loop ends with the payment. Everybody wants to get paid. Everybody needs to get paid. But in between that, you've got, okay, here's the problem. I'm from Florida. So working in New York, I didn't know you sent plumbers to no heat calls, right? So it's identifying the issue, knowing what that next step is. We're all property managers. We're not construction workers. We're not maintenance guys.
Yeah.
So I might need to draw on my experts in the field just to get, where do I go from here? Who am I sending?
Or AI is that expert, right? You bring a brain
Exactly.
in that is the expert. Yes.
Yes. So that's the point, is that there's so many just to even get to the invoicing piece that has to move quickly, especially when pipes are bursting, people are cold, don't have hot water, don't have water. So we've got to move fast.
Yeah, if you can build or inherit a brain that has the expertise on all these sort of things, then you can operate real estate without being the expert yourself. Like right now, you're at some risk. If you don't know what you're doing and you buy a piece of real estate, like you're at some risk if you don't know what you're doing. If AI can step in and be the expert on your behalf, then all you have to do is focus on the execution.
And look at us just ignoring the field workers sometimes. It's like we are trying to understand and empower them because they know the next right step. We're counting on them to know the next right step.
So let me wrap up by asking you this question then. Knowing kind of where the state of the industry is, what can be done right now, what's still maybe beyond on the horizon, where would you advise operators right now to start their AI journey? What delivers good bang for the buck right now that can be done today?
I'm going to assume that 99.9% of them are already using some type of property management solution.
For accounting and work orders.
Yeah. I'm not. Right. So, and that sometimes is not even an operator's decision, right? That's the finance department. And then we get to pick, we got to work with what we've got, what they've chosen. So I think it's extensions. I think that those extensions, like the maintenance extension, the compliance extension, which is not unique to New York City, but definitely a bigger issue, I think, or a bigger problem to solve in New York City. But those type of extensions, but those extensions that understand the importance of making it easy, that user experience for the field, whether it's the PM, the compliance person, or your maintenance person, and getting that information back in. I would pick, like I'm doing now, partners that understand the importance of that piece.
Vendor partners, software partners.
Yeah, software partners, yeah.
Then last thing, this is our time capsule check here. Think, let's just, a year is long enough for things to change. Think a year down the road, Rachel. What do you think will look different about property operations in a year thanks to AI than it does today? Let's make it 2 years just so you can maybe push the boundaries a little bit. 2 years from now, what's different about how we operate properties than we do today thanks to AI, do you think?
If I have anything to do with it?
Yes, you have everything to do with it. You're in charge. Go.
It would be that focus. So I'm working, with you guys as well. I don't take no for an answer. And I push and push and push until I understand. And so even just the tools that you guys have built, I've been like giggling at how cool and how close we are. It's almost to the point where I can hack it and get what I want out of it, which just means I need to talk to your engineer a couple times. And I think we've got it. But getting that, I think what we're going to see is and I hope that I say it enough to guys like you, men and women like you in these positions, that it doesn't have to break before we build it, because I think it's going to be too late. But what I'm seeing and what I think that I will see is the urgency and understanding of the UX for the field and understanding their unique experience, because they're going to be in hypothetically several different solutions. And that is still a massive drain that the industry can't afford. These companies can't afford. And the buyers, the property management companies, the building owners can't afford. They don't want to pay for wrapped vans and large administrative staffs anymore. They want to use AI so that their partners, vendors, field people are efficient, just like everybody else in every other industry.
The improvement in the user experience for folks in the field is the biggest opportunity that, or one of the biggest things you think will change within the next year
Think
to 2
Uber.
years.
Think Uber. I was a fourth hire. The fourth hire at Uber went out with a tablet and passed tablets out to cabbies and said, do it this way. The cabbie's not the buyer.
Yeah.
The cabbie's not spending the money, but the cabbie's got to show up and he's got to wait and he's got to trust the system. They built for the field worker. And we don't need to say how successful they are. It's the same concept.
Yeah. Well, Rachel, one of the reasons we want to have you on the show is I got to know you a little bit as you were thinking of deploying Vendoroo as a solution internally. And I recognize kind of the advanced way you're thinking about AI and how to deploy AI. And so I knew you'd be great to have here in one of the earlier episodes here of our new podcast, and you haven't disappointed. So thank you so much for taking the time to share some of your wisdom with us. And we will try not to let you down on your big picture projections.
Yeah, and thank you that I get the opportunity to come and talk about this stuff. So it means a lot to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we should check in a year from now and see how accurate your projections were.
Love it.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Take care.